Good evening. Here's top news newsletter, starting with the headline. Patriarch al-Laham prays for peace and security in Syria on Christmas Eve. Syrian army continues intensive operations against terrorists, destroying many of their heavy weaponry. Two Israeli border cabs stabbed in Jerusalem. A Greek Melkite Catholic Patriarch of Antioch and all the East al-Laham prayed that peace, security and stability may prevail once again in Syria, where an internationally schemed terrorist war is still raged since 2011. Laham's prayers came during a Christmas Eve Mass held on Wednesday at the Greek Melkite Catholic Cathedral of the Resurrection in Al-Dahir district in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Al-Laham highlighted the importance of conciliating the value of peace and reconciliation as means to confront the phenomena of extremism which affect the Middle East region. The Patriarch made a particular reference to Syria and Iraq, which have been ravaged by terrorism visited upon them by regional and international sides. He hailed Pope Francis' call for all Christians of the East and all the people of the Middle East region to adhere to their countries and to stick to their homelands. The Mass was attended by head of the Syrian Consular Mission to Egypt, Riyad Sneh. Talking about Syrian army, the operation against terrorist organizations continue intensively, targeting their vehicles, convoyed and thence inflicted major losses upon their ranks. In Deir ez-Zor, the army units continued operation against terrorists of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, the so-called ISIS, in Al-Huwaiqa, Al-Rishdiyeh, Hayy Jbeileh, Al-Rasafeh and Al-Sina in Deir ez-Zor province. Large number of the so-called ISIS terrorists were killed in and their dens were destroyed in the area surrounding Deir ez-Zor airport and Al-Jafra and other areas there. In Damascus countryside, the units of the army inflicted heavy losses upon armed terrorist organizations in the farm and the village of Al-Ghouta, Al-Qalamon and Khan Sheikh in Damascus countryside. The army directed painful strikes against dens of terrorists in many regions of Jobar in Damascus countryside. In Douma, many terrorists of the so-called the Nation Army were killed and wounded in concentrated strikes by the army against their gatherings. In Latakia, 7 of the terrorist vehicles, one of them was equipped with communication device, 2 were laden with ammunition, and the other 4 vehicles were equipped with heavy machine guns and motor launch pad, were destroyed during the operation. In Al-Hafa area, a large number of terrorists were killed as the army targeted their dens and gathering in several towns and villages in the countryside of Latakia. The military operations resulted in the destruction of terrorist weapons and ammunition caches in Kinsaba area and other villages. In Idlib, units of the army and armed forces killed many terrorists, injured others and destroyed some of their vehicles and their weapons in Kifrlata and Misrana in the countryside of the northern province of Idlib. In Daraa, concentrated army operations were launched against gathering of numbers of terrorist organizations in Al-Sheikh Miskin, north of the southern province in Daraa, resulting in the killing of many of them. Other army units killed scores of terrorism and wounded others in the countryside of the southern province of Al-Qunaitira. Army units also repelled and killed a number of terrorists who attempt to infiltrate toward the area of Tel Karaman Jabba and Tel Al-Sha'ir in the countryside. More terrorists were killed in operation in Rasm al-Khawalid in the countryside of Al-Khunaitira. The army smashed dens of terrorists and in Al-Butayha in Al-Khunaitira countryside and killing many of them. In Palestinian view, 2 officers from Israeli border police have been stabbed in Jerusalem, police said. One officer was wounded in the neck while other received stab injured in his neck while confronting the attacker. The suspect managed to flee the scene of the incident. Other officers were treated first by Magen David Adom paramedics. They were then transported to Zedek Medical Center. In Libya, 18 soldiers dead in militia clashes. At least 18 soldiers were killed during an attack on a power plant in the Libyan city of Sirte. Military sources blamed Libya down movement based in the west for the attack. An oil tank at Libya's largest oil export terminal in Sidra caught fire when it was struck by a rocket during fighting in a separated incident. Iranian Parliament Speaker Ali Larijani confirmed on Tehran's support for Iraqi people in their efforts to combat terrorism. The Islamic Republic of Iran has always stood by the Iraqi nation and today will use its capacity and spare no efforts to help Iraq tackle the country's terrorism crisis, as Ali Larijani said in a press conference in Baghdad. He noted that during the meeting to discuss the major regional developments, the problem of terrorism, as well as economic, political, and cultural issues. Before arriving in Iraq, the Iranian speaker had paid official visits to Syria and Lebanon, during which he met the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, his Syrian counterpart Mohammad Jihad al-Laham, and the Secretary General of the Lebanese Hezbollah movement, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, and several high-ranking officials. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Inas Ahmad. Good night.